Okay, the stream is live now. I'm going to make you host. As soon as Max join in, you can make him the co-host and you can start recording the session.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hey, Max.
Hey, Liz. Good morning.
How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you for asking. How are you doing?
Very good. Where's your home, Max?
I'm from Pakistan.
I'm sorry, where?
Okay, answer. I'm sorry. What did you say?
I'm sorry, where? I was asking where your home is.
Okay. I'm the part of TS support team. I'll be here working with you and assisting chat as well.
No, I understand. I just was wondering where your home is.
Yeah, I'm from Pakistan.
Oh, very good. Are you there today?
Yeah.
Must be the middle of the night.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, well, have a good evening.
You too.
Good morning, everyone. Hi, Joanne.
Good morning.
Hi, Annie. Hey, Annie from the UK, London. Wonderful. Glad to have somebody here from the UK. I've been to London a few times. Hi, Debbie. Hi, Louie. Louie or Lewis.
Hello.
Hi, Janelle. So if Annie's asking where I've been in London, I have been there about 3 times. The last time I was there, I stayed in Islington, and the first time I was there, I stayed in I think it's Highview, I think was the name of the place, the neighborhood. But I've been to lots of places in London. My favorite thing in London to do, if you're a tourist, is if you're going around the city, is hop in the get a transit pass and ride the double-decker buses and get up in the front of the double-decker bus and just go from one place to another. instead of, I mean, you could, it's faster to take the tube, but if you have time, it's fun taking the double-decker buses and sitting in the front and looking at the neighborhoods. Hi, Lina. How are you?
I am doing good, Mr. Russ. Is everything okay so far?
So far, we have, yes, we have Lina from Get Set Up Support here. If anybody has any issues with their Zoom this morning, I'm expecting a fairly large class. Maybe it's not. Maybe it won't be so large today, which is great if we're not that large. Hi, Wilsey. If everyone wouldn't mind practice putting in the chat where you are from. We've already discovered that Annie is from London, UK, not London, Ontario, or London, Illinois. Oh, Joanne's from Birmingham. I know Joanne. Joanne Ramsey's been in several classes of mine.
Of course, and more.
And more. And there's more to come. Hi, Nelda.
Good morning.
So we're all just putting in the chat where we're from. And after you've put in the chat where you're from, this is a Excel Basics class, but you can put in the chat up to 2 things you'd like to learn today. We will be learning basic things like how to open and start a file, a workbook, a spreadsheet. But if there's some other things you'd like to learn, put them in there. I always like to see if there's somebody that can stump me with something. Hi, Carol. So let's see. Line is from Houston, of course. Line is our Get Set Up Tech. If anyone has any issues or anything, you can chat or just ask her your question. Nelda is from Texas, Cibolo, I guess that is. And Debbie is from Rochester, Michigan. Line, of course, is from Houston. Joanne from Birmingham. Annie's from the UK, from London. And Wilsey is from Detroit. So if you want to put 2 things in that you'd like to learn, and we'll make sure we try to cover everything you want to learn today, if it's possible. Somebody asked me last week if I could teach them how to do VLOOKUP, and I said, I've done that, but I don't remember how to do it. That's kind of an advanced skill. Hi, Dorothy. Welcome. We're all putting in the chat where we're from. We're going to start in about 1 minute. We're putting in the chat where we're from. And we're also typing in the chat 2 things you'd like to learn from today's class. This is an Excel Basics class, so I'll be showing you how to open and create and enter data in a basic spreadsheet, a little bit about the Excel ribbon and file menus. And we have Max, who is our TA today, and Max will also collect any questions. Today during the class, if at any point you have a question, you can put it in the chat, and Max will give me a hand raise, and that way we'll know it's time to bring up the question. I'll also pause at times and ask if anyone has something you can ask, and you're free to unmute yourself and just ask your question. Okay, Annie would like to learn how to create data for interpretation for charts, for example. So once again, put in the chat up to 2 things you'd like to learn today, and also where you're from. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you. And you should see something that says Excel Basics. Does everybody see that? If someone nods, very good. Okay, so we're all seeing that. We're all on the same virtual page. That's good to know. I'm Russ Eanes, your guide. I live in Harrisonburg, Virginia, which is in the Shenandoah Valley. It's Western Virginia, not the same as West Virginia. That's still farther west. Shenandoah Valley is between the Blue Ridge Mountains and the Allegheny Mountains. And I have lived over half my life somewhere around the Allegheny Mountains in Virginia or Pennsylvania, actually 3/4 of my life. I'm a writer, a walker, and a cyclist. I formerly was a book publisher, and my favorite thing as a book publisher was to help authors shape their ideas and put them in between the covers of a book. I am now a full-time Get Set Up guide, and I teach a variety of classes on all sorts of things about book publishing. I teach a wide range of tech classes from how to use Gmail to how to do Excel or Word. I also teach some of the Google Apps classes. And my big specialty is travel. I'm doing, be doing one class per day on travel. Tonight, I'm actually doing 2 classes on travel. One class is how to use online or mobile apps to plan and keep track of your travel. That class is at 5:30 if you want to join us. There's still plenty of room in that class. That's all these times, by the way, are Eastern Daylight Time. And at 7:30, we'll be island hopping with Rick Steves. Rick Steves is going to be joining us at Get Set Up for an interview, a live interview and presentation next Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And you can sign up on our site and get a chance to be one of the people who joins that Zoom call. It will be broadcast and streamed live, just as this class is being streamed live. And I just realized something embarrassing. You all couldn't see me till now. I apologize for that. I thought I'd turn my camera on. Here I am.
Good
Got
morning.
my cap on because I got sun shining in the window directly in front of me. I like to work in front of a window because I like to see outside. But in the mornings, the window faces east and the sun is coming in from that direction. So now you can see what I look like. I don't have any hair up here. That keeps you all from being blinded by the light shining off my forehead, which gets very high. I love the energy I get from working with older adults, older learners, because you can learn something as long as you live, and you also have a lot of wisdom to share. By the way, if there's anything today that I don't know the answer to, and you do, please contribute. And you can tell us. I had that happen a couple of weeks ago. Someone said, how do you freeze the panes? How do you freeze the top row? And I said, oh, what's that called? What's that called? And somebody said, it's the freeze panes. We found it instantly. So Get Set Up is a place where you can learn useful skills from people like you, so you can do wonderful things. We learn from each other. Ideally, we can see you and your cameras are on. This class is being recorded. However, let me make sure it's being recorded. Yep, it's being recorded. And you can request a recording of this after class. You email help@getsetup.io, and I'll make sure that email is in the class notes. If anyone is joining by live stream, the best way to participate is to join us and register for a class. And by the way, Get Set Up is not paid to promote any specific products, so we're not being paid by Microsoft to promote Excel. Here's our agenda for this morning. We're going to talk about what Excel is and how you get access to Excel. We're going to look at how to create and save Excel workbooks. I'm going to teach you how to use some simple formulas and functions. And we're going to look at how to enter, format, and copy information. And again, if there's anything I'm showing you today, you're like, hey, I want to see you do that again, please put it in the chat. Or if I ask for questions, just go ahead and shoot that question out there. Hey, show us how to do that again. Excel is a very powerful spreadsheet program that allows users to enter data and manage it in the form of text, numbers, formulas. It is probably the undisputed market leader. I've been using Excel for over 25 years. It has changed some, but a lot of it is just basically the same. Most of this, there's a little more power under the hood than there was in 1996, but it's still the same basic stuff. There is an alternative. There are a couple alternatives. If you have a Mac, and I do, you can use Numbers, which I don't. I know how to use Numbers. It came built into my Mac along with some other stuff that's similar to Microsoft products. I prefer Excel. You can also use Google Sheets. And let's see, I don't know if I'm doing a Google Sheets class this week. Yes, I am. 2 o'clock on Wednesday, 2 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time. I'll be doing the Google Sheets class, and you can learn how to do very similar things to Excel, but on Sheets. Sheets is free. It's simpler. I think that most of what 95 to 99% of users need can be done with Sheets, and it's very easy to share your work with others. And also everything you do is instantly saved, continually saved, and it's in the cloud. So if your computer crashes, you don't lose anything. And you can also get it, access it from someone else's computer. So come 2 o'clock on Wednesday, that's Eastern Daylight Time, I'll be doing a Sheets class. How do you get Excel? Well, Excel has to be loaded on your computer. It's part of the Microsoft 365 product, which you need to get now by subscription. Subscription is $69.99 a year. I also subscribe to it monthly. I have, I think I pay $6.99 a month, so I pay a little bit more to get it by the month. But with it comes Word, Excel, PowerPoint, OneDrive, and so on and so forth. I use Excel. I use Word a lot. I'm a writer, so I do all my writing in Word, as I have done for nearly 30 years. And also, I occasionally use PowerPoint. However, there is a Google app version of each of those, Sheets and Google Docs, which are free. And either I will teach that, or someone else who's a guide at Get Set Up can teach you how to do those things. There is a free online package, Office Online, which runs as a browser app. It looks very similar, and it kind of mimics Google Docs. Doesn't quite have all the features of Microsoft 365. But if I will mention, this is the current Microsoft 365. You can purchase older versions of Excel. You can either purchase them as a download, and then they're downloaded onto your computer and it's yours forever. You can also purchase them, older versions, sometimes on a disk. The one thing about the older versions is sooner or later they will announce that they no longer support those older versions. Frankly, I don't really see any downside to them not supporting it. I guess what happens is if there's some kind of bug in it, they won't fix the bug. But if they haven't found all the bugs in 5 years, there's probably no bug they need to find. So that's how you find Excel. And rather than keep on sharing more stuff from a slide, I'm just going to go ahead and go right into Excel, and I'm going to show you how to access and open a workbook. I'm sliding over here to the right hand of my screen. Again, I'm using a Mac, and I've got this thing called the dock where it has all my apps and programs, and I'm just clicking right on Excel. And you all should have seen a spreadsheet pop into view. Is that right? Everybody can see that? Very good. All right.
Yes.
This is a spreadsheet. Actually, I'm not going to use this morning, but this is one way you can use Excel. This is just a table of some information that I have on some people that are wanting to help with Get Set Up. I'm going to go up here to the top. So there's Excel, and I'm going to hit File, and I'm going to click on New. However, before I click on New, let me show you New from Template, just so you can see that. Excel has lots of templates you can use, and actually it's kind of fun. If you have something you want to do, you can look at the templates. You can take a tour over here. They'll show you all their templates. But if you want to make a list, if you want to track tasks, if you want to manage money, have a personal budget, family budget, so on and so forth. They've even got a credit card calculator. They've got all these templates you can use. And when you use a template, you click on it, and then you just go in and you fill in the data. They have sort of dummy data in there, and you can just fill in your own data. You can even do a trip planner in there. So actually, it's a pretty good thing. Total expense tracker, all sorts of stuff. You want to take a personal inventory, you can add that there too. However, I'm just going to go ahead and open a blank workbook. So I click on that and pops open a big blank workbook. Now, the way Excel is, I like to imagine Excel like an old-fashioned accounting book. So if you've ever been with some accountants and they have their old books, there's always pages stacked behind the other, and sometimes the top sheet might be a summary sheet. Excel is kind of thought of that way. So you've got a workbook, which is this whole file that has all this information in it. But inside that workbook, you can have multiple sheets. And think of them as not like one below another, but one stacked behind another. They're actually, you can put, gosh, I don't know how many thousands of cells of data you can put in a worksheet. It's a lot. It can get huge, but it will just continue to copy data down the page way beyond what you can see. A separate sheet is a different thing. That actually is another whole data set. And imagine them stacked one behind another. And you can link those sheets in Excel. It's beautiful. So I learned Excel from previous finance work I did. As a finance, before I was a publisher, I was a finance and operations director for the publishing house. And I would sometimes work in an Excel workbook that had 30 sheets. And they were all stacked one behind another. They all have little tabs down here at the bottom. And I'll show you in a little while how to do that. And they were all linked so that they could all be summed up on the top sheet. So a lot of powerful stuff you can do in Excel. You can have separate tabs or sheets like this that just have your charts on it, and those charts are linked to tabs on, are linked to the data on other sheets. So Excel has lots of stuff. But whereas when you're working in Word, for example, that's one long document. It is lots of pages one after another, but they're all kind of seen sequentially, and there's just a page break where the new page starts. Excel doesn't work that way. I mean, let me back up a second. Excel does break up pages, so you can't just put everything onto one page. But the sheets concept is not all one sheet, but rather sheets behind each other that you can link or not link to each other. The basic Excel, when you open up a brand new workbook, it gives you this grid, and the grid has columns alphabetical across the top. And once you run out of alphabet, it starts over. So it goes A, B, C, D, so on. Then it becomes AA. A, B. So you can, and again, I don't know how many, I forget how many columns. You can have a lot, but then it's very difficult to see it all. And then the rows are all numbered. Now I'm going to show you all one neat little trick, and I'm going to show you several tricks today that if you come away from the class with just these things, you go, oh, I'm so glad I learned that. One of them is how you can make this more readable. So each of these cells that you can enter data into is very small. If you would like to make this thing a little bit bigger so you can see it, down here in the bottom right-hand corner, so I've gone all the way down here in the bottom right-hand corner. Sometimes people can't see what I'm doing. There's a little slide bar. And I grab that slider and I can make the cells bigger. See how the cells got bigger? This is much easier for older eyes to read. And so I'm gonna try to work in this size today. And again, I can take that slider and I can make it smaller, so small that you can't read it, and I can make it bigger. So I'm gonna make it about that big right there so we can see more easily what I'm doing today. Now, across the top, like all of the Microsoft products, we have a menu. And well, first of all, there's this basic menu up here. Okay, so there's a file menu. Each one of these has submenus. So if they have a little arrow next to it, it means there's more things below that. So if you see the arrow off to the right, then so the file, edit, view, insert, format, tools. I'm not going to go over each of these menus because a lot of that's repeated in the ribbon below. But I just want to let you see that they are here. And like any other Microsoft product, you can have multiple files open, multiple, if in Word, it's multiple documents open. And you go to your window and it shows you down here the names of the ones that you have open. It always defaults to giving something like book 1, book 2, book 3. And so since I've already in this session, since the last time I opened Excel, have already had something called book 1 and closed it, it's now defaulted by calling this one book 2. I also had that one we saw open earlier, and it's down here. So you can toggle between them. Okay, now that is the menu across the top. And I want to just point out one little thing that's very handy to look for is this thing called page setup down here is a very powerful thing. I won't show you all the stuff in it, but take time to look at it because the page setup will give you a lot of help for when it comes to printing your workbooks. Okay, there's multiple tabs across here. So if you want to print grid lines, for example, you would go to the sheet one and you would click on grid lines. And now when you print, it will print the grid lines. And then you say, okay. But this is called the ribbon, and all Microsoft products have this stuff up here. And it's just full of icons. And these are all very similar across their products. So the first, and so each of these little menus now are different ribbons. So we're in the home ribbon. We can go to the insert ribbon, and now you can see all the icons have changed, and there's different things you can do. You can insert a table, you can insert pictures, shapes, etc. You can go to page layout, and that's how you're going to lay out the final page for viewing. Very often spreadsheets are printed out and used for reference in reports or for anything. There's an entire formula ribbon. So these are all the common formulas. There's a data ribbon. Maybe you want to sort your data out, alphabetize or greatest to least or least to greatest. These are where you could do it. There's a review and a view. These are all the different ribbons that are available. I'm going to start by just going to the home. These are all the most common ones you'll ever need. Again, has a lot of similarity to the Word ribbon. Over here on the left, you have your formatting for the data you're going to put in. You've got your font size, bold, italic, underline. You can draw boxes around things, and here's your font color. Then you have whether you justify it left, justify right, or center it. That's what these little things mean right here. I'll show you some of these other things as we get to them, but I'm going to skip over a few. I'll show you the wrap text because that's important. That's when you have more data. Let's say you've got a heading that doesn't all fit in one cell, so you want to be able to wrap the text. This is how you format the numbers, okay, or format the data. So you can have general, which just means whatever you put in there, a letter or a number. You can also make it into currency. You can make it into percentages, and you can add commas and decimals. You can add or decrease the number of decimals. So that's all right here. And then here's more detail. You can format the table in certain ways. Like if you want to, these are the default styles. You can pick one of these right here, and your spreadsheet can look like one of those. The one I find very commonly, the one I use a lot, is the insert, delete, and format of rows and columns. And these are right here. Again, I'll show you how to do this. This is because we'll be using this a lot. And then on the upper right-hand corner are some very common other functions, like the sigma is all the formulas that we can use. So those are under the sigma. Then there's also a sorting right here. So you can sort and filter your data. Just going over the common icons up here in the home ribbon. Now I'm just going to start by putting some data in number one. So we'll put in 1. And let's see, I'll put over here 23, 34, 42, 456, 4, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, and 90. And okay, so I just put some random numbers in these. Now, let's see if I showed you how that little slider bar works to increase or decrease the cell size so you can see it. I'm going to show you another trick that I love in Excel. And if you remember one thing, it's of a couple of things that I'm going to show you. Remember this one. It's called the fill handle. So when I click on a cell, it highlights that cell, draws a green line around it. I think everybody can see that. Now, there's a little thing in the bottom right-hand corner of that rectangle. It's like a little tiny square. That's called the fill handle. If I take my cursor is now a hollow white cross, and I bring it over to that fill handle. Now it turns black, okay? That means I've grabbed the fill handle, and I click down with my mouse and hold it, and I can drag down like this. That fill handle will do several things. So what I just did was I just copied cell 1A, copied it all the way down here. But let's say you want to do some numbering. So that you'll see down below the fill handle in the bottom right, there's a little drop down menu, and I can do something called fill series. And now it make them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now if I go back up and I keep on grabbing that fill handle and dragging it on down, it continues to number the cells in sequence. So that's a very handy thing. And this fill handle does different things like that. And I'll show you the basic things that it does. But this is one thing you can automate getting, instead of typing 1, 2, 3, 4, one after another, you can grab that fill handle and just drag it down. Okay. Here's another thing the fill handle can do. So let's put in here January. All right. So if I grab that fill handle and I pull it down like this, look, it's making a series now, and it figures, oh yeah, you're making the months of the year. So I'm just going to drag this down through 12, and I've got January through December. That's what the fill handle can do. I'll show you some more things it can do, but those are some very handy things. It has a logic that will figure out how you want to massage that data. Now, let's say I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, you know what? I want column B to be somewhere else. I don't want those numbers to be there. I want to move that over. So I grab it and I can just pull that over like that. Again, you go up to the column identifier, the column heading B, and you just grab it, and you can grab the whole column and move them. So I just moved column B over. Now I could do several things here. I could move C over, but then I'm going to have some empties, or I can just get rid of column B because there's nothing in it. So I come up here to delete. And see where it says delete sheet columns. Gone. I just deleted column B. So it's a very easy way just to move rows of columns around. So now let's say I want to put some headers in these columns. There's no headers up here. What do these things mean? So I come over. So I showed you how if I clicked up here in A, it highlighted all of column A, all of column B. If I come over here to row 1, it'll do the same thing. It'll highlight all of row 1. So I want to insert a row. So I come over here to insert sheet rows. There you go. It inserted a sheet row above it. Now, let me point out one thing. If I had done that here, okay, I did it at the top of the very first row. So there was only one place that an inserted one could go. And, never mind what I just said. So I inserted the sheet row above. It tends to do it above. It defaults to do it above where you do it, or to the left of where you do it. Okay, let's give these a name. We're just going to call this first header row number. Sorry, the header column number, month, and this is and actually we'll call this one sales. Sales. Okay, so I've given each of them a number, a name, each of those headers. Now let's say I want that header row to stand out on my finished spreadsheet, and I want those to be a little bit bigger than the rest of everything, the rest of the data. So I go over here. So if I click on a cell, it says it's Calibri 12. Those are my font and the font size. I want to make the header row bigger, and I want to bold it. So I want to make it 14. So I click on the drop-down menu to the right of the font size, and I click on 14, and I want it to be bold. So I click on the B, and now I've got it nice and bold. There we go. So that'll be a little bit easier to read. Now let me pause at this point. I put in some data. I've done a little bit of initial formatting, and I want to know if there are any questions on anything I've done so far. Go ahead and unmute yourself and just ask. Or Max, do you have any questions? Yes, Debbie.
No, this is Carol.
Oh, hi, Carol.
Hi, good morning. Okay, now say if I wanted to add up all of my bills for that month, is that what Excel is used for?
Yes, and I'll show you a formula in a few minutes.
Okay.
That you can do that. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it. To take a spreadsheet for a family budget. I do it.
Okay.
Max, with any other questions, or anybody want to just chime in with a question so far about the formatting and adding of entering of data?
How do you move a column to another? I can't remember where you said to.
Sure, I'll show you that again. So let's say I want this one that says month and I want to move it. So I
Oh.
come up here in the column header, which is, remember that this is the row, but above there it's column B, and I just highlight the whole thing, and then I just press down with my mouse, my right click. See the little hand, the little glove? That means I've got it. Now the glove disappeared, but don't worry, it's got it, and I just pulled it right over here like that.
Oh, okay.
Now let's say, oops, I didn't mean to put that there. Easy enough. I can just go up to the undo, which is way up here in the top. That little backwards arrow, undo, move it back. You can undo, redo, anything you want. It's similar, and same thing you can do in Word. Sheets has a similar function. Okay, so Carol's asking a good question. How do we add things up? So let's put some more numbers in here. 89. And I'm just making stuff up just to get some data in here.
Mhm.
All right. So we've got 13 rows of data, and I'm gonna just get rid of these numbers because we're not going to use them. So I highlight. See how I highlighted all of them, and I just click delete. They're all gone. That data's all out of there. But before I show you how to do that, Carol, let me add some other data in here. Okay, we're going to call this frequency. I mean, it doesn't necessarily matter what I call it. 2, 3, 4, 5, 4. Just putting some numbers in here so that we have something in every row. Okay. So, if I want to total up and know what my total sales is, so for this year, so this is a whole year, the first of all I have to know is, well, what are these numbers of sales? Are these sales units? Are these sales dollars? So let's say I'm going to make these sales units. So I'm going to have to add some dollar value. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to insert a column here. So I go here over here to insert. And just by clicking on it, it knew what I wanted to do because I just clicked on it. I didn't hit the drop down menu. So I'm going to just do that again. So I've highlighted a column and I just go to insert and it will automatically insert a column to the left. All right. So I'm going to put here dollars, and we'll put in there 1, 1, 1, 3, 2, 4. So I'm just making up numbers, put in there. Oops, 6, 7. Just keep making up numbers and putting them in there. And some of this doesn't make sense because some of the numbers might not match the units, but that's okay. And okay. So now I've got dollars, sales, and we're just going to call this sales. And I'm going to call this one sales units. So Carol, look what I do. I've highlighted the cell 1C that says sales. So you can see there's something all around, but I want to call that sales units. I want to add the word units to it. I can do it 2 ways. One is I can just double click on this cell and click on it until I see my cursor appear right there. And I can put units, UNITS, like that. However, notice that I've got now 5C highlighted. That's cell 5C. If you go up here, this is this formula bar. Whatever was in that cell also appears up here. I often find myself working up here because it's a little easier to type stuff in because cells are limited by how wide the cell is. So if I want to add something, like let's say I want to have this say sales in units. Well, I just go up here and I click on it, sales. And I add the word in units now. There it is. Okay, let's total them up. All right. So let's call row 14 a total. So I'm gonna go down here and say TOTAL. So I know what that is. And I want to now sum up everything above here. Okay. So now I'm going to show you the second thing. I showed you the fill handle. All right. And I'm going to show you the second thing that's really handy if you remember anything from today's class. It's the check and X. So I want to make this a sum. I want to add up row 2 through row 13. So I go and I want to put it in row 14. So I go up here to my little sigma, which is my formula, and I click on it. And there's all sorts of formulas you can do. The very first one, which is what we mostly do, are sums. So I'm just going to click sum. And Excel, look what just happened. It saw that above where I was putting that total, a whole lot of every single one of those cells has got something in it. So it guesses that I want to sum everything above it. Okay, so it saved me the time of having to tell what to put in there. And there's two ways, there's actually three ways that I can see what this sum is going to be. The first way I can see is I can see all the cells that are highlighted. So I can see cells 2 through 13 are highlighted. Good, that's what I want. Then down here inside cell 14C, I can also see the formula. It says what is in this cell equals or is a sum of C2 to C13. See that little colon in between C2 and C13? That means everything in between those two cells, C2 and 13, including C2 and 13. So as if to say from C2 to C13. So look out for that little colon right there. Okay. The third place I can see that is up here when I was showing you this formula bar. It's up here and you'll see the formula again. It equals sum of C2 to C13. Now, I tend, even though I can see it here and I can see it here, I'm always looking up here because look next to the formula bar, there's a green check and a red X. So remember the green check and the red X. If that sum is correct, I like to go to the green check and say, yep, check. It's correct. So now I got my sum up there. Looks like May was really the big month. Now, that number, I can't exactly read what that number is. There's a lot of digits in there, and I don't know how many. Is that millions, hundreds of thousands? I can't quite read it. So what I want to do is I want to take this data that's in here, and I want to have some commas where they belong so I can read how many thousands. So I just go up here to cell C, the column C, and I highlight the whole thing, and I go over here to this comma. It's now going to insert commas where they belong. So it is now 4,475,338 units. And since I only sell units, whole units, not partial units, these little decimal places, 0.00 is kind of pointless. So I come up here, right next to where I hit the comma, I've got an increase and decrease of decimal. Okay. So I go here, if you can maybe read it, it says it says increase decimal. Here it says decrease decimal. So I click on it once and I only have one decimal place. I hit it twice and now I've got no decimal places. So that tells, now I can see that that's also a number in the millions. Okay. Now let's say column D says dollars, but maybe I want it to have the currency sign there so I can see it. So I come over here to this little currency, the little dollar sign, and I click on it. Now it's made everything in that column into dollars. And again, we've got two decimal places and dollars are, in two decimal places. Those are the cents. And, but they're all zeros. So it's kind of pointless having them there. So again, I'm going to go over here to my decrease indent, decrease decimal here, and they're gone. Now, Carol, here's what's cool about that fill handle. I created a formula right here that said it's a formula, a sum, and now it doesn't say anymore in the cell what it is. What I was summing isn't highlighted anymore, but that formula is up here in this formula bar. That's why I say I tend to just work in the formula bar because it's usually where I'm looking for things. Now here's what's cool, Carol. You grab that little fill handle down here, the same one that we made a sequence of numbers and of dates. You grab that little fill handle and you drag it to the next cell. It is now summed up the next column. And let's say, hey, do I want to sum up the total of frequency? Sure. I drag it right across there like that. And now I've created a sum for all the columns.
Okay.
So that's a great thing you can do with the fill handle. And that's a very simple formula, just basic mathematics. Now, someone once asked, how do you do subtractions? Well, I can show you that in a second. And you can do multiplication, division. They're all possible. So I realize this may not make sense because I'm just sort of building a little database here of dummy data, so it may not make sense. But let's say I just for the sake of learning, I want to show you. Well, here we go. Here's an idea. Let's say that there are 23 units sold. Frequency means I had 2 sales. All right. So I want to know sales or units per sale. So we're going to call this, I'm going to make this a little bit bigger, frequency of sales. Now, I want you all to see something. Do you notice that you can't now read what's in that whole cell? See, I put frequency of sales. It's up here. You can see it's in the formula bar, but you can't read it all because it's too wide for that cell, that column. There's a couple things I can do. One, I can just make the whole column as wide as whatever is in that. So I can come up here to the line between E and F, and I can double click on it. Now I've made it wider. Now I can see this is frequency of sales. Same thing over here. It just says sales in unit, but it's actually sales in units. And if that's a comfortable view of my data and I'm happy with it, I can leave it that way. Sometimes though, you're building a spreadsheet and you got lots of columns and you want them all to fit on a single piece of paper. And so you don't want that column E to be so wide. You want column E to be much narrower. So what you can do is you can come over here and you can click and highlight the whole row. So I'm highlighting row 1. And now I'm going to do this thing called wrap text. So I come up here to wrap text and I click on wrap text. All right. And now it's making, it will make the cell, the data in the cell stack on each other. So see where it says unit per sales. I'm going to go over to column E. I want column E to be a narrower column. I don't want to be so wide. So I go up here between E and F and I grab that right edge and I pull it over this way like that. And now it is wrapping the text. Now the header is deeper. So row 1 is deeper, but column E is narrower. And that's more comfortable for me to read. Let's say the same thing with sales and units. I just don't want that column to be quite that wide. So I can go over here and I grab it on the little line between the 2 columns and I drag it. You can drag those columns either way. You can make them wider, you can make them narrower, whatever you want to do. There we go. Now look what happened just now. I made that column too narrow. And look what happened to the data in row 6 because it doesn't fit in there anymore. So it just gives me all those hashtags. So I'm going to go back up here and make it a little bit wider so I can see all the numbers in there. I keep on making column C wide and wider until I can see all the data in it. Okay, so I'll show you some more formulas, but let me pause at this point and ask if there are more questions.
That answered one of my questions because I was trying to put in a number and it would turn into those other little things. And I didn't know why. And now I know I just needed to extend the column, huh? Yeah,
it's kind of like saying gobbledygook can't fit in there. And you just have to make it wider until it fits. Yep.
That's good. Thank you.
You're welcome. I've spent a lot of years formatting spreadsheets, and that's a very common problem because I've got a lot of columns. I want them all to fit on them. You want them not only to fit on a page, but fit on a page so you can read them. Because if you make the font too small, you can't read it. So you want the font big enough to read, but then you want to be able to fit as many columns on the page as you can get, or rows. More questions about anything I've shown so far? Okay, so if I want to know how many units there are in a sale, so I'm going to go over here. I'm going to do a little division. So I've got right here 23 units sold, and there were 2 sales of those units. So over here, I'm going to build a little formula. So I go up here to my sigma. And now what's interesting is I'm going to make this again in the form of a sum. So if you just think of the basic addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division, just think of them in terms of sums. So I go up here and I go sum. So it says, okay, do you want to add those 3 columns? Well, no, it's going to have a problem if I try to add what's in all 3 columns, because what's in column C are units, and column D is dollars, and column E is another number. So it will get very confused. It says, well, some are numbers, some are dollars. It won't compute. That's not what I want to do. What I want to do is I want to take 23 and I want to divide it, column C, and I want to divide it by column E. So I go C2, and then I use my /, which is a universal symbol for division. And then I click on the cell that I want to divide into it, which is this one. See, now it highlighted that one. And I come up here to my green check and say, yes, that's the formula. And I sold 11.5 units per sale, which makes sense. That's 23 units sold in 2 sales. And again, I can take that and I can just drag that down the entire column and get all these rows like that. And I can even do it for the sum down there like that. And notice here, Nelda, again, it's got those hash marks because the data doesn't fit. And you know why the data doesn't fit? I'm going to click it open. It was probably just the decimal places. And I could also make it shorter. Here, I'm going to undo that and show you another way to do it. If I was suspecting it was the decimal places, I keep the whole column highlighted. And I go up here and I decrease my decimals. There you go. Got rid of that. Now they fit. It was the decimal places. I forgot to show you all one other thing. So, and I hope that we're not going back and forth too much, but I basically use division here. Down here, let's say you want to average something. So I go, the first row 14 says total, and I'm going to build row 15 is going to be averages. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to average the data above here. This was a total of everything in 2 through 13. Now I want to average everything in 2 through 13. So I go back here again to my sigma and I click on it and I see where it's, so the first function or formula underneath it under sum is average. So I click on average. Now it says, what do you want to average? Well, actually 14 shouldn't be average. That's the total. I don't want that in my average. I don't mess things up. Nope. So I go up here and I highlight and I just take my mouse and I click everything up from 2 to 13. And now here's where I like to look in this formula. It says average of C2 to C13. I see that up here and I'm like, yep, that's exactly what I wanted you to do. And I get my green checkbox done. And so I now have an average, kind of a crazy average, and I can take that average and I can just drag that average across all the columns with my fill handle. So now I've got that same formula built into every one. And you'll notice that if you were to, so this one says this is an average of C2 to C13. This one is an average of D2 to D13. It just follows all that logic. Now, let me show you one more little thing. Sometimes when you're working with spreadsheets, they get very long. You have a lot of rows. And when you're looking at them on screen, as you scroll down here to add more data, I lose what was the header in that first row. Okay, what's in D, what's in E, I forget. So you can do this very handy little thing where you can freeze the panes. This is just in viewing. Doesn't work when you come to print it. It's just for viewing it. So again, I go over here to row 1, got my arrow, my cursor to the left, click. Now I've highlighted the whole row. Now I go to the view ribbon right here. And there's 2 things I can do. And I'm just going to do, you can freeze panes or just freeze the top row. That's a very common thing people do. I click on freeze top row. Now look what happens. As I scroll up and down my spreadsheet, that top row stays in place. So I can remember what's in E and F and D. This is especially useful when you're looking at data. That's also useful when you're entering data. So you can remember what was in that header row. And let's say, you know what else? I also want to just make that a little bit gray so I can see my header row. I can go back here to the home ribbon, and there's a little thing here see like a little bucket of paint pouring. You can fill it with any color you want. I often like to fill in certain rows or columns or cells of my spreadsheets, and I click the fill. Let's say make it yellow. I can make it yellow. Now that's all yellow, and it's also been frozen as I'm scrolling up and down. You can also freeze columns. So you can do any number of things. You might want to freeze column if you're putting data off over here to the right of where you've put data in already. Well, we're just about out of time. Wow, this hour went fast. Let me pause though and ask if there's any questions about anything I've shown you so far. And I'll show you one last little thing, how to add another sheet.
Yes, Russ, I have a question.
Sure, Carol.
Yeah, okay. Now, say like, okay, if I wanted to purchase Excel program, whether it's PowerPoint, okay, is it safer for me to do that online, or should I actually go into the store and purchase it? Because I've heard several different things that sometimes these programs, they slow down your PC. Is that, or is that not true?
Well, they can slow down your PC. Depends what you have, how big your RAM is, how much stuff you have on your PC. So that is the good point. You know, I have that Office suite on my computer, but I got rid of some of the things. I can't even remember all the stuff that comes with it. I didn't download it all because
Okay.
it didn't affect so much the performance. It's a pretty brand new computer. It's
Mhm.
very safe to buy it online. The nice thing about buying it as a download is if there's ever a crash or anything happens to your computer, you can go back out and get it again. For years, I bought these things in discs, and you get a license with it, and that was the only way to do it. But I get a new computer and I couldn't find the old disc somewhere. And so the nice thing about having it a subscription is you can it's there for you always. So if you have a crash or something like that, or you get a new computer, you can go get it.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Let me just show you one last little thing here, and then I'll ask if for the last time if any questions. So this is sheet 1. Let's say I want to name this. I'm just going to I'm going to call this sheet data. So I go down here and double click on the name, and I'm calling it data. All right. Again, you just double click right there on the name of it. If I want to add a sheet, I just go here plus, and it just keeps adding them. Sheet 2, sheet 3. It just defaults by calling sheet 4, sheet 5, and then you can rename each of these. And you can learn in an advanced class. And by the way, you can learn this online. I'm sure there's a YouTube video that shows you. You can link data from the sheets that are stacked behind it. Like if your sheet, the first sheet is a summary sheet of everything behind it, you can link all the data to all the cells behind it. And you can also rearrange these sheet. You can pull a sheet over here next to, in front of sheet 2, you can drag and drop these things so you can rearrange them. Doesn't make any sense the way I've got them numbered to rearrange them, but if you have different names, you can move them around. And then you just go back here to the bottom tab, click on it, and there's the data sheet. And these are called worksheets, and the whole thing is called a workbook. So again, it's kind of the imagining a book of pages stacked one behind the other. Last question. We got about 1 minute. Well, you all were a great class, and I invite you to come back next week to this class if you want to learn it all again. You can take this class as many times as you want. It's free. Wade also teaches an intermediate Excel class. I don't suppose we don't have an advanced Excel class yet, but we certainly could, because there's a lot of stuff you could do. Someone was asking about charts. That's a pretty advanced. That's not even that's anywhere from intermediate to advanced. Excel has made creating charts much easier. So when I first started using charts 25 years ago, it was a little more complicated, but they've made creating charts very handy. You can do pie charts, you can do line charts, you can do bar charts, all sorts of things. I'm going to stop the share here so we can see everybody. And thanks, Max, for being with us. And I hope all of you got something out of this class. You will get an email after this class is over, and I invite feedback. So if I did a bad job or there's something I can improve on, please let me know. I always want to make my teaching and my classes better. I want to invite you to some of my other classes. You got an invitation to Google Sheets. If you want to learn something about travel, hey, I'm doing 2 travel classes this evening. I think that the second one, which is called Island Hopping, might be full, but it will be online. So if you want to go to Get Set Up TV, go on the homepage. When it shows the things that are broadcast live, you can find it there. So thanks, everybody. I hope you all learned something. And again, come back next week or to one of the other classes. And everyone have a great day. Bye.
Bye.